Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for Megan Crandlemire's yearly recap. We're going to ask her about her year, how it's gone, what's new, and get some insight from her as to what is working for her and what isn't. So, hello, Megan.
Hi, Rachel.
Um, so, if people have not watched your interview from last year, can you give us a quick summary of what you're doing and what Starboard Digital is and how you're spending your day?
Sure. Well, I do website design, and I've been doing that for over 10 years now. And my company's name is Starboard Digital. And I build websites mainly for individuals and small businesses. And I build sites so that the client can maintain their site themselves after it's built. And I usually use a tool called Joomla or also the popular platform WordPress to build those sites. So that's my main focus as far as business goes.
Nice. And we also have to introduce Scotty, who's her kitten sleeping on her lap,
So
taking a
yeah,
little nap.
yes, he's here assisting.
So I know we left off last year with you feeling like you wanted to incorporate your new spirituality into your business more. And a lot has happened since then. So I think I'd love to start just by highlighting what is new for you. So, I could say it, but I'll leave it up to you to let us know what are the new developments that have happened in your life since last year.
Well, I suppose lots of things when I reflect back, lots of things have changed. And there were certainly some ups and downs during the past year. I think there was a lot of integrating of a lot of new information and all the stuff that I learned just researching more of spirituality and what it meant to me and my abilities and so forth. So probably the biggest thing is at this point, about 3 weeks ago, I started teaching a psychic development class for beginners. And I'm teaching that in person at a location in Connecticut. And it's Thursday nights for hour and a half class. And I absolutely love it. And I'm surprised how much I love it. But then again, not because I think it's just bringing together the last few years of all my spiritual awakening stuff into a point where wow, I can share what I learned and bond with others and watch them bond with each other. It's a beautiful thing. So that's one big change. And then I just have a lot more outlets for creativity now that are not necessarily for the business for Starboard, but just me personally. And that includes um, some painting. I'm doing quite a bit of acrylic painting now and taking a class, and I'm doing a lot with photography as well. And once I started integrating more of that creativity, it just automatically rubbed off on the business. It was the most interesting thing that Starboard just started to blossom as I started to just blossom on a personal level. So I love how the two just blended like that.
Yeah. I think you're leaving out one more big thing.
Oh, well, there's, yes. And the other big thing is that I co-host a internet radio show with Rachel Archelaus. With you. You are correct. So, yes, that has been, we have done, I think, 20 episodes now. So that's been almost 5 months, I would say. We are on the air live every week on Tuesday afternoons on Blog Talk Radio. And it's just been an amazing experience. We've had the pleasure of having guests on the show and also just doing the show that just the two of us doing and talking about whatever it is we want to talk about and we're getting great feedback from people, so I'm having a ton of fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so it's another creative outlet. It
mm-hmm.
definitely is. Yeah.
It's amazing. In 1 year, you you developed your own personal creative side, which allowed more business to flow into you. Because of course, you know, creativity is something we channel. It's being in that open, receptive place, and you have to be open and receptive to also receive business and money and leads. So, they really go hand in hand, and kudos to you for doing that with painting and photography um, and moving past the point where you thought you didn't belong almost. Because
Yeah.
growing up and being an adult so far in your journey, you kind of felt disconnected from your creative side. So, what moved you over the hump? Like, how did you just let go and go to a painting class or go out and use your camera and learn how to do that?
Well, the painting was interesting. I was invited to go to one of those, bring some wine and friends and go to a studio and paint for a couple hours. And there's an instructor and they walk you through it. And a friend of mine invited me to do that. And I have to tell you that for the 3-4 weeks before that class, I was dreading it because putting pen to paper type drawing is not really my thing. I've never been able to sketch and make anything look more like a stick figure. And so I dreaded this thing and I wanted to get out of it, and I didn't, and I went and I had a lot of fun in the end. I was really focused and I had my paints and I was watching the instructor, and what came out was better than I expected. And it was not a Monet, but it didn't need to be. I enjoyed the experience of it, and that's what kind of launched me. So it was definitely some resistance and getting over some fear. And once I faced it, like, wait a minute, this is actually fun. And then I was invited to another class, kind of like that, at someone's home, and I did that. And then I just bought a whole bunch of supplies and started painting myself, just using some YouTube videos to watch and off and running. So it was facing a fear, and it sounds silly to be afraid to paint, but I think it was more confronting a fear of failure or fear of trying my creativity and not liking what I'm creating, if that makes sense. But even with the photography, I don't love every photo that I end up taking, but who does? But I love when I come home and I've shot 150 pictures, I pull it up on my laptop and I look at them and oh wow, there's 2 or 3 gems in there, like a treasure hunt. So yeah, so I guess I've just learned to get over that fear and just start to be creative and just realize that it's a process. And after a while, good stuff comes out.
Yeah. And I imagine you had to do the same with the radio show and with teaching class, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The radio show, of course, I'm partnered with you, so I had a really good support system there. And I'll tell everybody who's listening to this that Rachel's just a natural on the radio, and I'm learning from her every week. But I'm really enjoying it and just letting myself speak my mind, not to try to be somebody else, but sometimes Rachel will express some view and I'll be like, well, what about this? And I know it's analytical Megan speaking, but that analytical Megan is part of me. I'm not all spiritual. I'm not all head in the clouds all the time. I'm still kind of grounded and I question stuff. And so it's been fun to just, have that. And the joy of having a radio show with somebody who's different than me, and just the back and forth banter is really fun, and discussions. So I look forward to the show every week. And then the psychic development class, once again, a little bit of resistance for me on actually doing it and stepping into that and going in that first night to teach the class and just feeling nervous and who am I to get up in front of them? Do I know enough and all that? And as soon as I opened my mouth and started talking, everything was fine. The ladies in the class are amazing. I attracted the perfect class, which you told me I would,
Yeah.
and they're there. And they're asking for more. They're already, worried that we only have 3 classes left, and are asking if I'd like to teach like an intermediate class. I'm like, all right, well, we'll think about that. But it's just making some plans, going through with it despite some fear. And once you get over that little hump. It's like, oh, it's pretty on the other side. This is fun.
Yeah. So I would love to dive deeper into that because I think so many people are afraid of getting started because of that. You know, some people call it a fraud factor. Some people just don't feel like they're ready enough to get up in front of other people and to share because
Hmm.
they just don't feel that embodied in it, or there's an excuse in their mind. Like for you, am I psychic enough? Do I
Yes.
know enough? For other people, am I healthy enough if they're a health coach? Am I thin enough if I'm a weight loss coach? Have I been in business long enough? Do I make enough money if they're a business coach? Everybody can have their own excuse as to why they're not ready to start. And it feels so valid, right? I remember you were fighting me, like
Me?
you really
What?
didn't want to do it. And I was like, Megan, you're so ready for this. And so I get it. It's a real concern there. Um, so how did you know it was the right thing to do, or did you really have to rely on other people for that to get you there?
I think deep down I knew I was probably ready. And I'm glad that I had a little bit of experience. Well, first of all, with the radio show, because that's certainly in its own way being in front of people every week. And then, on the side, I occasionally teach a spinning class at a gym. And so I've had to get up in front of 25 people and teach a class like that. So I kind of knew that over the last couple of years, I put together experience to let me go ahead and teach this. But the topic, you're right. Am I psychic enough? Do I know enough? Am I going to be helpful? Those are all questions I had. What I knew in my heart, even though I was scared to do it, I knew I had to make it absolutely my class
Mm-hmm.
because I have certainly taken, your classes and they're awesome and amazing and I learned so much and I've learned from books and other things. But what's important is to take all the stuff that you've learned and then make it your own. And what is it I want to share? What's most important to me? And I knew that from teaching spinning classes that I had to be my own type of spinning teacher. And I'm quite different than everybody else at my local gym, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so with the psychic development, I've just made it my own. I don't overthink it. It flows out every week, and so far so good. And I love that my class, my girls, are more psychic than they thought because they did readings on each other the other day, and amazing things popped up, including the word celery. And it turned out it was this huge connection for one of the women. Celery couldn't have been the more perfect word to come out. So yeah, so just. Yep, it just worked out, and yeah, just being myself in the end
Cool.
seems to be the key.
So for people who are in that mode right now of embarking on something new, taking a step up into leadership or teaching, and they're feeling like they're not ready, is there something you can tell them to find out if they are or if they're just in fear?
Well, I do think that ideally, if you have someone in your life that can serve a little bit as a coach or a mentor, that's helpful. Somebody that knows you and knows how far you've come and can remind you, well, look at what you've done over the past year, because I think it is important to reflect back. We're so busy and we're plugging along and we feel like we're not really making tons of progress or change. But when you look back over the last 6 months, where were you and where are you now? It's pretty amazing how much perhaps you have prepared. So yeah, you might be nervous and that's normal, but reflect back, or if there's someone close to you or a coach or something that can help you reflect back and tell you, because you're never ever most likely going to feel 110% ready to do most anything.
Yeah.
But look back, and if you feel like, yeah, I have done a lot of work and I've prepared best I can, just take the leap. What's the worst that can happen? You can have one uncomfortable night or one, whatever. You can always readjust.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So give yourself credit where credit is due.
Yeah, that's really important because we often don't give ourselves enough credit, and we don't
Yes.
see ourselves clearly.
Yes.
Um,
I'm famous for that.
Oh, we all are. I mean, I do it all the time. Everybody I know, it's just so hard when we're living inside of ourselves. We're not cutting ourselves enough slack normally.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know what we look like to other people. We can't even see the way that we walk and the way that we walk into a room and what we look like from behind and all that. All we know is this forward, flat outlook. And there's so much more to us than we realize that other people see.
Hmm.
And yeah. So take those compliments to heart.
Love that. All right. So you've done a lot of allowing this year, allowing yourself to experiment and to do things you're afraid of and to follow pathways that before would have been not only scary, but just frivolous, Like, what advice can you give to people who are feeling a little mired in their routine and, not really able to stretch out and just let those new things come in?
Yeah. Um, it's so important to have a little happy time every day. I look at some people that are just working, and everything is this task and this big to-do list. And when you're just mired in that all the time, it's heavy. And if you allow yourself a little bit of playtime, whatever it is, if you love to read, then read for 10, 15 minutes. Turn the TV off and read for a little bit. And keep experimenting and trying different stuff until you find something that sticks, whether it's creating a new recipe or taking up painting. It doesn't have to be expensive, but a few minutes a day, it starts to add up because it is like a form of meditation. I think when you're doing something that you love, you get lost in a painting or lost making a piece of jewelry, and that's so good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So just notice your day and notice if you're not having any fun or taking any time for yourself, and then just start working it in a little bit at a time. And you'll find that it's addictive, and then you'll find that once you're having more happy time, then even work is happier. Because for me, work is even more fun now. I think because I have other outlets for stuff, and it's the fun and creativity is just oozing out throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. Very wonderful. Because those people who are working, working, working are feeling like they have to do that in order to make money or in order to be successful. But you're saying that the opposite is really true, and that when you relax and like bring some fun into your day, that's when more money can flow in, and that's when you're going to feel more successful.
I can't even 100% agree isn't strong enough
Uh,
on that. I think so. I honestly think that everything, the money you create, the it's all coming from within. And so when you're unhappy and you're banging those pieces into place instead of kind of allowing things to flow, uh, you're just working 10 times harder than you need to. Just let it flow, relax, be who you are, offer your talent, whatever it is, your own way. If you're going to teach a class, teach it your way, not how you think it should be taught or how others are teaching it. Do it your way and allow that to flow. And then also just expect that the people, the clients, or the attendees to your class, they're going to come when you're being authentic and relaxed and coming from the heart. It always aligns that way. And I think it's when we think we can outthink the universe that you end up with all these like blocks, and because you're so stressed and uncomfortable because you're having to outthink the universe. Well, it's a big thing to outthink.
yeah.
So if you kind of let it, work in your advantage, then no, it's much easier. Much
Yeah.
easier.
Love that. Scotty does too, man. He just
Yeah, he
doesn't sit
seemed to
his head
really
up.
agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous. Well, that's been so helpful. You know, our next step is not always going to be the one that we feel totally ready for. It's
Yes.
not always going to be the one that, you know, we are running toward. It's often going to be the one we're like, no, no, come back next year. I'm not ready yet. So it's helpful for me. I know it's going to be helpful for everybody else. And just relax, especially on those days where you feel like you have to press on.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, and there is nothing better than tackling a fear face on and coming out of it. And no matter how it ends up, it feels so good to have just, faced it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And once you do one, you'll want to do it again and again. So who knows? Maybe next year we'll be doing a TV show.
I know, it's on my radar. I love that. Yeah. So, is there any other word of advice that you would like to leave people with, or any other gem from your year you want to express?
I the biggest thing I would say is I'm in a really nice place right now, but there were lots of low moments this year too, lots of integrating and figuring out who I am, and I never got hopeless or anything like that, but um yeah, there was kind of and I've come out of it. I'm still coming out of it, still learning and growing and expanding. So even when you're having that little bit of downtime, allow yourself to have it. Um, because I think a lot of times when you're in that mode, you're taking in, especially if you're self aware, you're taking in and integrating the new things you've learned. So just be a little bit patient with yourself because it takes a while. It takes a while to grow and it's not instant. And when you look at other people and what they're doing, just realize that, it wasn't all happy the whole time. There's
Mm-hmm.
the ups and downs. So, yeah. But know that you'll come through it because the universe always realigns.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. Well, thanks, Megan. If people want more information on you, they can go to starbirddigital.com,
Yes.
and that link is below your name in this interview. And also, if they want to listen to Soulfulpreneur Radio, it's kind of a plug for me too. Just go to soulfulpreneur.com, and it's full with two L's.
Yeah. You can also find us on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just search Soulfulpreneur. You'll find some of our shows up there. So thanks, Megan. Thanks for being such a great friend and co-host, but also for sharing this with people. There are so many spots along the journey and so many different ways to play it, and I really appreciate your version of it and being so open about it.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for everything, for being my friend and co-host, and just helping me along on this journey and making it so much more fun.
My pleasure. All right, thanks so much.